I had an experience recently where I've had a lot of attachment come up. And so I was really looking at the disadvantages of attachment. And from Venerable Chödrön's guided Buddhist meditations, she reminds us that attachment breeds dissatisfaction. We can't enjoy what we have and are continually dissatisfied. We go up and down emotionally. We have unrealistic expectations of others and don't accept them for who they are. Even if we exert great effort over a long time to get the objects of attachment, we're not assured success. We waste our life. We don't practice Dharma because we're distracted or obsessed by objects of attachment. Even if we try to practice Dharma, attachment continually interferes, distracting us from the practices to cultivate constructive qualities. And it causes worry, anxiety, and frustration. And so I was noticing that this is also really coming up for me. These qualities of attachment are manifesting in relationship to the current political situation, where I find myself very dissatisfied, always wanting something different than what's happening. I'm going up and down emotionally, sometimes able to, navigate okay, sometimes getting, quite afflicted about what's going on. I have unrealistic expectations of others and who they are, and I'm not accepting them for who they are. And even if we exert great effort over a long period of time, there's no assurance that I would get what I want and would, have political leaders making decisions that I think would be in the best interests of the best interest for the most people. And I can get caught up in, wasting my life trying to tweak samsara, trying to fix things, and not actually practicing the Dharma because I'm really obsessed by what is going on and how things are, going in such a wrong direction that I need to do something to fix this. And it causes worry, anxiety, and frustration. So it's been really good to look at some of these things like attachment to predictability, attachment to expectations that the government is going to work for the benefit of people, attachment to people following the law, to the functioning of checks and balances between the different branches of government, attachment to my ideas and that our elected officials should listen to my ideas. And so attachment is this mental quality, this mental factor that exaggerates the good qualities of things, really wishes for it, and takes a strong interest in it. And so I'm trying to really, tease apart where, what is it that I am clinging to? Because democracy isn't actually the end-all be-all that's going to create lasting peace and happiness. Samsara is what it is. It's unsatisfactory in nature, and there's nothing I can do to fix it. But at the same time, having qualities like freedom of speech, freedom of expression, freedom just to be in a place, to be able to work, and to raise a family with some relative safety, these are qualities where people can, then practice ethics, can then, benefit others and really create the causes for lasting happiness. And so seeing this, though, seeing my ideas of what I think America, should be and how democracy is so wonderful, I also can't help but think about how it's not working for many people, even in this country. There is a lot of, societal racism, structural racism. There's, personal racism. There is gender inequality, wealth inequality, widespread acceptance and use of intoxicants, violence, lying, and other non-virtues. And so this, kind of American ideal, which I'm kind of clinging to, is something that I've made up in my own mind. So thankfully, I have been managing, this this event, these series of events in this current presidential administration better than other times in the past, where there's also been other leaders who have made decisions that have been causing harm to others. And so I'm so grateful to have the Dharma in my life to really help me take this bigger picture and to give me some tools for when I get caught up in like what's happening in this moment and seeing this as so solid, so much of like, this is the only thing that matters. The Dharma gives me tools to be able to open up and really bring what's happening right now into my practice to help me cultivate these good qualities that really are, going to have the potential to lead to lasting happiness. And so last weekend, or recently, whenever that was, we had this really beautiful compassion and action retreat. And towards the end, there was this question, Venerable Kunga alluded to it the other day as well, of, what are we going to do in response to this current situation? And I really, fell back into, this habitual way of seeing things throughout this life and probably other lives of like, we have to do something. I need to do something. And thankfully, there was other monastics who responded with this perspective of like, but we are doing something. In our daily practice, this is what's really important, to cultivate this compassion within ourselves so that we can really share the Dharma with others. So we can help others cultivate clarity and work with their own fear through this situation. And so, like, doing something really involves this work of embodying the Dharma, to engage in our practice so that we're really available to support others in a positive and long-lasting way. And then this really reminded me of the importance to zoom out and get this bigger perspective and to come back to bodhicitta, that we really all have this potential to develop our good qualities, to develop love, compassion, kindness, integrity, and consideration for others. That is something that each and every being has. And how wonderful would it be if I can be an agent for change in that direction? If I can work on cultivating those qualities in myself with the aspiration to help bring them out in others. And this is a long-term project. This isn't something that's going to be accomplished in this one lifetime. And so I can sometimes get discouraged of like, oh, well, we've made progress, in this country around, different rights and, norms. And it seems like they're all being eroded so quickly. But with the bodhicitta aspiration, it takes this really long-term view. Like there are, ups and downs, but we have countless great eons. What's the rush? We can engage in our practice right here in this moment, right now. And we can also see progress happening in this one lifetime. I can see that my compassion and understanding and fortitude are growing, that I respond to situations, in a more measured and grounded way. Like it was before meditation even started this morning when there was two things that happened that in the past would have really sent me through the roof. And this morning it was like, okay, here's what it is. It could be worse. Let's just, switch my attitude to, like Venerable Punsak has been reminding us, like it's not all about me. Let's think about others and, move on. So I can see this progress. And I can also see that progress happens over multiple lives, where in this life I started to volunteer and to be exposed to helping others when I was quite young, 19, 20-ish, somewhere in there, and was really inspired by it and was like, this is what I want to do with my life. I want to help others. And so I can't help but think that that is very much influenced by the work of my previous lives. And then when I started to study Buddhism and was introduced to this concept of bodhicitta, I was like, what? I can be of the most benefit to others and actually relieve others from all of their suffering and establish them in some sort of peace and happiness forever? That sounds amazing. Sign me up. And thank goodness I had some, enthusiasm for that, because since then I've learned that it's a long road. And I'm totally not anywhere where I thought I was. But it was enough to, get me going and to give me just the thought that something like this even exists and is possible, even though it will take a long time. But so keeping this big view, and being able to see this kind of progress is really encouraging, especially when there's these external situations where it's more difficult to see how things have gotten better. And so there are a couple different ways that I've been really playing with this and working to cultivate a more contented mind that's the opposite of the attached, clinging mind, is to really be intentional in generating this bodhicitta aspiration. When I have been calling and writing our elected officials still, and these are, pretty brief moments. Our days are very full of other wonderful activities. And so in this, kind of like, it really is about it's about a 2-minute phone call. I'm usually leaving a message. But so in that, I am starting to really be more intentional. Like, may I be able to benefit others now, those who I'm calling on behalf of and advocating for. And even if it doesn't make a difference right now, may those who I'm calling in support of, may I be able to benefit them in the future and really, strengthen this connection so that I can help them create the causes for happiness and help them create the causes to be free from suffering. And may I be able to lead them to full awakening. And may I practice well right now so that I can have the skill and wisdom to be able to do that. And the elected officials that I'm contacting, may we create this karmic connection so that, perhaps it happens in this lifetime, but it might not. May we be able to work together to build a world where all beings are valued and feel safe and are able to live in an environment where we can thrive. And so in this way, it really changes the whole flavor of these, small interactions of these messages, where it's not so much about the result in this moment, but it's, more expanding my motivation of like, may we travel this road to awakening together. And may, this small bit of advocacy right now be that spark and that connection that helps that happen. And Geshe Jumpa Tekchok, in his book, Transforming Adversity into Joy and Courage, described in the benefits of cherishing others that a small intention is the seed for cultivating the attitude to benefit others extensively. No one lacks this seed. It is in everyone's mind stream. And when it is said that all sentient beings have the potential to become a Buddha, this is what is referred to. This seed is extremely important, and we should take great care of it, cherish it highly, and cultivate it so it will grow. So the more we can come back to this intention that we have within ourselves to be of the most benefit to others, the more we're really nourishing this potential to really be of lasting benefit. And perhaps we are able to also inspire others to do the same as they see the way that we are engaging in this situation with a hopeful mind, with a vast perspective, with ethics as, a really core value, and nonviolence and respect and consideration for others. Perhaps that alone is enough to inspire someone to reconsider how they're engaging with the current situation and, see that there's a different way besides just responding with anger and frustration and discouragement. And so another thing that I've been doing is really seeing that when I do have the anxiety and fear and frustration running in my mind, when I let my mind indulge in this, it just leads to more. It doesn't actually help it resolve. And so when I can catch this, I've been just letting myself, get more grounded in the present moment, like feeling my feet on the floor or on the earth, noticing what I'm seeing and hearing and feeling the tactile sensations on my skin, and seeing that the anxiety and the fear and the frustration aren't needed in this moment. They're not helpful. And instead, I can be grateful for the number of things that are going right. The number of things, that I have my basic needs and so much more actually met in this moment. And that I can, really offer what I'm experiencing to others who are being detained, who are losing their jobs or have lost their jobs, who are experiencing illness and preventable diseases. I can offer beautiful sights and beautiful sounds and feeling the earth under my feet, whatever that is, to just ground in that present moment and then offer that to others. And so, in this way, to feel still connected with what is going on, but not let that fear and anxiety, be what's the main record in my mind. And there was this really wonderful letter to the editor this week in the Minor that also encourages us to just open our perspective about what is happening right now and how we can use this to our benefit. She starts with a quote from Albert Einstein. "The more I learn, the more I realize how much I don't know. What if we were to apply this philosophy to our current political system? What might we uncover? Might we be less emphatic about what we already claim to know? Might we become more curious about what we don't know? And might we become more understanding of those who know different things? While we're at it, what if we looked at our need to be right? What if we made it okay to be wrong? What if we actively practiced the humility of authentic intellectual exploration without the need to please our ego by defending a strong and hard stance? And since we're on a roll, what if we practiced the art of contemplation? What if we took the time to research all sides, to understand an issue, and worked with our inner guidance to arrive at our own wisdom? What if that process helps us discern deceptions and agendas that we might have previously missed? And most importantly, what if today's politics has a curriculum and its lessons are curiosity, understanding, humility, and authentic contemplation? How might that understanding change the world? And so I appreciate this because it's really this invitation to look beyond what is just kind of happening on this larger scale and where are the opportunities to connect with each other and to really build community and bridge differences. And I think this goes right along with our bodhicitta aspiration of really wanting to reach out and have this open-heartedness towards each and every sentient being equally, no matter what these superficial differences are on the outside. And so when we can use this situation and see it as an opportunity to really cultivate a more realistic and beneficial view to strengthen our bodhicitta aspiration, we are going in a beneficial direction, one that will bear fruit. In the short term, we'll have more ease of mind now because we're staying within our values, and we can't help but be creating the causes for ourselves and others to have real, lasting peace and happiness in the future.